So I'm not an influencer. I'm just tired of people falling for the same old scams in crypto space. I mean, it's crazy. No matter how many rug pulls, scams, Ponzi's happen, people just keep falling for them over and over again. So I'm going to try to start doing a series that I'm thinking about calling it red flags. Red flags that I've seen over the years. Right, I'm just an entrepreneur building in the space, been building in the space for a long time. We see these red flags, I think, as people are like heads down building real technology. We don't, it's just noise to us. But I'm tired of seeing people get hurt and lose money on these things that are just like really easy to spot if you are a real technologist within the space. But if you're on the outside or if you're just an ordinary user, it's really easy to fall into these traps. So I'm gonna try to do these videos. If you find them valuable, let me know, retweet them, and I'll keep doing them. So today I'm gonna start with the biggest red flag that I've seen, or at least it's the one that I see the most often, and it's like 100% always accurate. And it boils down to three letters, and those letters are TPS, transactions per second. And like even starting right there, right? Transactions per second are one way of measuring throughput. And you don't even see people really like people who ask about TPS, they don't even think in terms of throughput, which means like how much information can you push through given set of pipes. Right. So already you're not really thinking about it the right way when you're just focusing on transactions per second. And I have a metaphor that I think will help people understand this concept. And it's the metaphor of a highway. Okay. Imagine somebody comes to you and they say, I've built a massive highway. Billions of cars can go through this highway and they're going to pay me a toll every time they use it. And you can invest in it and I'll share the profits and we're all going to become billionaires. Does does that sound like a good investment to you? Does this sound like a good idea? This isn't investment advice, by the way, right? I'm just asking a question. Does that sound like a good idea? I hope it doesn't. I I really hope it doesn't. If it does, fine. Let's break it down. Okay, right? Why would a big highway matter in and of itself? Imagine it's a highway that goes straight into a canyon. So if you drive to the end of the highway, you drive over the cliff and you die. Is that highway going to make you a lot of money? I don't think so. Is that something you want to support? You know, even if you're a purely selfish investor who only cares about making as much money as possible, is that highway a good investment? No, it's not a good investment because it doesn't go anywhere valuable. The highway isn't the thing, okay? Where it's going, the place that it's going and the value that place provides is the thing. New York City needs lots of highways and big highways because there's so much demand for what New York provides. So if you were telling me I've got this big highway and it's going to New York City and I have a monopoly on this highway, okay, that's interesting. But at the same time, why am I not just investing in Manhattan, in New York, in the real estate? That's the thing that's of value. So when somebody's just talking about TPS or they're just talking about 10,000, a million, and just lying because none of this stuff is true, it's a huge red flag because they're not talking about real value. They're not talking about New York. So to give an example, obviously hugely biased, but Koinos, the blockchain we built, right? What's the value? Well, it's the first and only free to use blockchain. Maybe you don't think that's valuable. Maybe you don't think a lot of people will use that. That's fine. I don't care. I'm not telling you to invest in Koinos. I'm explaining to you something that I think has a huge amount of value. Are a lot of people using Koinos now? No. It just launched in November and it's still a new platform. We're still working on tooling and documentation. I mean, Koinos account protocol launched, which is a username system. I think of it more like a user management system. Collection marketplace launched. CoinDX, the decentralized exchange, that's launching soon, but it's still very early. Things are launching, people are developing things. It's an early platform. We don't need billions of transactions per second. We're barely using we have plenty of room. We have more than enough block space. But it's not just us. If you look around at every other blockchain, Solana, Ethereum most of the time, but forget it. Polkadot, they're not using the space that they do have. That's not the problem. The problem is that they can't figure out what is actually valuable about using a blockchain. We're still trying to figure out those use cases. So focusing on transactions per second when we still haven't figured out what's really going to drive a ton of adoption of this technology is totally the wrong thing. And it's certainly not how serious technologists in the space think about, or in any space, the internet. You don't think throughput is a challenge on Web 2, right? You never heard people talking about this because the struggle was on finding sustainable business models. The struggle was figuring out how we could use this technology to solve problems in a new and better way so that there was actually demand. And if there's demand, well, then the capital and the engineering resources necessary to meet that demand materialize. But if you focus not on that value and you focus first on throughput because you know that that's what people focus on, and that's where people constantly shuffle their money back and forth from, well, it just shows that you're not really interested in creating long-term value. So ironically, if even if you're a purely selfish profit-oriented speculator, you should be trying to stay away from those projects because you're not gonna get the kind of growth that you're looking for. I mean, look at a company like Tesla, right? Their mission is to accelerate the world towards sustainable energy. Does that mean that you have to believe in that mission to make a lot of money on Tesla? No, right? All you had to do was put your money in farther in the past and you would make a ton of money on Tesla, right? So, it's because they're solving really important problems and they're developing really innovative technology to solve those problems and they're implementing a sound business plan. So they're not saying, here's how we're going to make a gazillion cars a year that nobody wants. Here's how we're going to build an enormous factory to make cars that nobody wants, right? They started small, making the Roadster, then the sedan, then the Model 3, and they've been ramping over the course of 20 years or something. I mean, definitely been over 10 years, right? So even though it looks huge now, right? Like don't think that the next automaker right, so to take the analogy, we could just look over at the electric car market where you see all these other new competitors saying, well, we're just going to compete with Tesla by making a gazillion cars a year and we're just going to be as big as Tesla. And people going, well, I don't want to invest in Tesla because it's already overpriced, right? I want to get in on the next Tesla. So I'm just going to believe some idiot like Trevor Milton or whoever that Nikola guy was because he says big numbers and he lies. Well, how did that work out for you? You invested in that SPAC. How did that work out for you? Right. So it's not about any single metric. How do we think about that with Koinos, right? We've got this free to use blockchain. We think that obviously if you make something free, people are going to use the crap out of it. So shouldn't we have made it like capable of a gazillion transactions per second? Well, the problem is that if you know anything about building platforms and applications, if you're a serious technologist, you understand that you might have all these ideas about what the problems you're going to have with your platform and scaling your platform are, what the user feedback is going to be, but with 100% certainty that invariably the things you think will go wrong and the problems you think you will need to solve are not the problems you will need to solve, or at least not in the order that you think you'll need to solve them. It's not until you put your product out and it starts interacting with reality and users that you really find out the problems that you need to solve right now. So when you waste money and other resources solving problems that you think are going to be problems, before the problems, then you just wind up solving the wrong problems because you're going to have to solve those problems too. You wind up wasting your money and you wind up building a platform that isn't right. It's prematurely optimized, right? So instead, what we focus on is upgradability and making Koinos the most upgradable platform in the world, where no matter what happens, we can push through upgrades quickly so that the platform can get better across many domains, because Koinos is a general purpose blockchain, which means that it can support literally any kind of application that you can imagine. So if you're talking about a limited platform like a blockchain that only has one token and all you can do is send tokens between addresses, yeah, maybe focusing on throughput is the thing that you have to focus on, because that is just very limited utility. You can't do much with that, right? But if you're talking about a general purpose blockchain that can do anything, that can power an infinite variety of applications, that can create an infinite variety of value types, then you need to be able to improve on the widest range of domains. You need to be able to improve in areas that you're not even thinking about right now. That could be throughput, which, by the way, can be improved through things like virtual machines, which people don't even think about, or things like transaction pipelining, which is a way of kind of pre-ordering transactions. There's many ways to solve these problems. And in fact, a lot of people are using these to get their TPS numbers up. But remember, they're focusing on the wrong thing, because you can get your TPS numbers up as high as you want. But if there's nothing on the other side of that that people want to use, then it's not going to be valuable. Then whatever block space that you create is not going to get used. There's going to be no demand for it, because at the end of the day, what matters is where that highway is taking you. So, okay, that's my little rant on TPS. If you liked it, please share. Please let me know in the comments. And if you want me to keep going with this red flag series, then also let me know in the comments. All right, thanks.